Amani Toomer is with us, and we look inside the halfway point of the season, inside the NFC East, Amani. And I want to start off with, of course, Amani Toomer you can listen to over at NBC Sports Radio, the 24/7 Sports Radio, where you can get online at NBCSportsRadio.com. And he joins us with a look inside the halfway point of the season. And, Amani, I want to get your take initially. The Giants-Eagles last week, as we're getting ready to move past that game, just an overview of what the heck happened in that game. Another game in which the Eagles just cough up late, but the Giants trying to hand the Eagles the game.
Yeah, I think the Eagles gave away 14 points from the first two throws with Carson Wentz, and then they decided to go on fourth down 4 times. They only made one of them. They got one field goal block, so I guess that only doesn't really count. But they just gave away potentially 23 points to the Giants. And the fact that the game was so close, the game should have been a blowout. It shouldn't have been close. I think that it shows you that the Eagles are a lot better than you think. I think the Eagles need they need 2 receivers. They need another person besides their tight end, Ertz, who can make plays. I think if you find somebody else, because I believe in Carson Wentz. I think he's a really good player. I think he's the real deal. Just with a little seasoning, he'll be just fine. But the fact that their coach Pederson went for it on fourth down inside the red zone 3 different times and got one field goal blocked for the fourth, it shows you why this team is kind of standing in the mud right now. Rookie coach making rookie coach decisions, not allowing his team to win a football game. That's the way I looked at that football game on Sunday at the MetLife.
So what happens in that situation? You play and your coach makes those type of calls. Maybe the first one, 4th and 1, you're like, all right. Then the second one, 4th and 2, actually reversed. 4th and 2, they went for it. Then on 4th and 1, on the 6th, they went for it. When you're a player and that happens, what's the mindset? What is the message he sends there? Because he'll try to say, well, look, I trust my offense. Is he telling the kicker, I don't trust you? It seems that there was some mixed signals from the defensive players, not wanting to be so aggressive. So what is that like when your coach kind of plays a hand in a way you lose a game?
You get really upset because if you play conventional football, you win that game going away without even any real – the game's not even really that close. The fact that your rookie quarterback threw 2 interceptions early on and you can kind of came back with 10 straight points, it could have been a 1-point game at that situation if you would have just made that field goal instead of went for it on fourth down. So I just think you can't take points on the board, especially in a rivalry, especially on the road. You only go for those types of situations when you have to. You don't go for those types of situations to try to set the tone, especially in the first quarter. Those are the types of things you do in the fourth quarter when you feel like your team is stagnant. But your team was just down 14. Sometimes when you talk about teams panicking, it's not really the players that are panicking. Sometimes it's the coaches. And that's what a situation that I looked at from the outside. Well, I'm sitting there in the press box watching the game, cheering every time they went for it on fourth down because the Giants' defense they're pretty good. They against the run, that's something that they're pretty good at doing this year, a lot better than they were last year. And the fact that they ran a draw play, we call that a trick 'em play in the NFL, and you just try to trick the other team instead of actually out-physicaling the team with Carson Wentz on a quarterback keeper. And then you give the ball to the smallest guy. Mind you, Sproles was very effective during the game, and he had a phenomenal game. But if you're going to give a 3rd and 1 situation, I think I'd give it to Matthews, just the fact that he's a bigger guy. And, if there's somebody in the hole that makes contact with Matthews, maybe he can lean forward and get you the first down. But Darren Sproles, I don't know if that was the right decision.
Hey, real quick before we move on to some other NFL stuff, JPP said after the game, they asked him, were you surprised they went for it on fourth down? He said, no, Spags told us all week they would, and we were prepared for it. Are the Eagles, when you watch them, are they too predictable? Is Doug Pederson too predictable in his play calling and what he's going to do on certain down and distances? It seems very Andy Reid-esque.
No, I don't think it's unpredictable. I just think that it's just bad football. I think it's just you play the game within the game, which is giving your team the best opportunity I never really was a proponent of predictability in football because there's really not that much you can do. You can run it or pass it. You can run a different couple formations, but there's not that much you can do in football. Most of it has to do with can you out-execute the player that you're playing against. So, it's the old Monday morning quarterback. Oh, I can predict what they're going to do every time, their offense coordinator needs to be fired. No, there's not many things you can do in football. It's not that creative. Football is more of a game that's about, can you beat me? Can my man beat you? The individual battle. So I never really was a proponent of that, of being predictable. I think the thing is they just didn't execute well, and they took unnecessary risks that ultimately cost them the game versus the Philadelphia Eagles.
Amani Toomer is with us, NBC Sports Radio. Amani, okay, Monday night, the officials, the ratings, it's all been a mess. But what is your take halfway through the year? Are the officials becoming more a part of a game? Is it just, is it the same? We just didn't notice it as much. Back when you played, there wasn't the social media as much, so we didn't focus on it. Or is it really bad? Is it a big problem? Does the NFL have to do something to try to help fix the pace of some of these games and the way these officials are getting involved?
Well, I think we're at a point where, when we first got the replay, we all liked it, we all loved it. But now they replay everything. They replay every turnover. They replay every scoring down. They replay everything in the 2-minute drill. And I think it slows everything down. But when you replay all those things, you're raising the bar on what referees should call and what they can see. The thing about it is we have the luxury of slow-mo. They have things in real time. And so it's an entirely different situation for them. And the new rules, I think, with the defenseless receivers and all that, I guess they're not rules anymore, but you're telling the referees to judge intent and get inside players' heads during a football game. And that's very, very hard to do. And that's where, you really get into some issues where the rules need to be simplified. Football's a violent, rough game. Everybody signs up for it. And I think they need to roll back on some of these rules. It reminds me of the in-the-grass rule. Remember back in the 80s, they had the in-the-grass rule with the quarterback?
Yes.
And how they rolled that back and they quietly just went away. I think that's what they need to do with some of these defenseless receivers and all this stuff because it's football. I mean, you're asking defensive players to not hit somebody, not try to tackle some of the best athletes in the world, just trying to get them down. You're saying slow down because if you hit them in the wrong area, you can get fined, and their fines are substantial. I think if you're in their tax bracket and you get fined $18,000, that's $36,000 because it's after-tax money. So it's a lot of money. I don't care who you are, 36 or if it's $40,000, it's $80,000. I mean, that's a lot of money. So I think that if I'm a defensive player, I'm going to make some business decisions on how fast I go. And you see a lot of missed tackles that wouldn't have been in missed tackles before if you just let these guys play. I think that the NFL has swung too far for the offense. You could look at the statistics, and I'll just tell you how ridiculous, how hard it is to play defense nowadays.
No doubt. Amani Toomer, NBC Sports Radio, the 24/7 live sports radio app. You can get it at NBCSportsRadio.com. He joins us here with a look at the NFL. Thanks, Amani.
Thank you. Appreciate it.